We are the Ewoks, friendly spirits from the forest glow. We're Ewoks, friendly spirits from the forest glow. We are brave, we are bold, like our storyteller told. And we're strong and we will fight, and we'll stand up for our rights. We're the Ewoks, friendly spirits from the forest glow. We are the Ewoks, friendly spirits from the forest road. Yes, we're home on the barrel and on highways in the trees. When we want to fly high, we just sail out on the reef. We are the Ewoks, and we're one big happy family. We are the Ewoks, one big happy family.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Today, I have purely just the 80s cartoon Ewoks, which lasted 2 seasons, to discuss with you today. It's not going to be super long, uh, but yes, in the 80s, they had created the Droids cartoon, and they had created the Ewoks cartoon. Discussed the Droids cartoon in a previous episode if you want to hear my thoughts on that, but this is the Ewoks cartoon. It lasted longer than Droids did, perhaps because Ewoks are adorable and, kids flock to that. But it focuses on a lot of the Ewoks that simply didn't have a name in episode 6, but that we saw in episode 6. So we got Tebow, we got Wicked, who is that main one that we see, like befriending Leia and stuff. That's Wicked, because it's a play on the name of the actor who played him. Little, what's the not mean word for it? Is midget acceptable? Small person. I don't know what the right word is for it. The one that's not offensive, that's the one you should take from my mouth, okay? I don't know. There's a lot of... Anyway, that actor, the Willow actor. And so, it follows their adventures around all of the moon of Endor. They call it Endor, but to be fair, they're Ewoks. They don't really know anything about technology or anything, so to them, that is their home. That's Endor, even if it's just the moon of Endor. But they go on a lot of wacky adventures. A lot of crazy things go on. The most consistent bad guy they have is the Dulocs, who looked much scarier in the Adventures of Tebow, mind you. They're just kind of like these green, dirty-looking, Grinch-looking characters now. In the first season, the first 10 episodes at least, there is this evil, racist witch lady. She's not actually racist, I just like to call her the evil, racist witch lady. She was also in the comics, though I imagined, just in the way she was presented in the comics, that she was a character from the show being put in the comics. With some additional trying to stop the Ewoks in the comics before she eventually died. I think it would go the first episode of the Ewoks cartoon, and then you could kind of place those other, comics in between that and the rest of the show. But she hates Logray, who's the tribe chieftain who knows magic. Now, I would find that to be a bigger problem, the whole magic scenario in the Ewoks cartoon, except that we also have Mother Talzin in the Star Wars, the Clone Wars TV show, where she's using maybe the Force, but it's used in a vastly different way. And so I'm completely willing to accept that, the Ewoks may be just accessing the Force, and they just don't know what that is, so they describe it as magic. Wicked is supposed to be like Force sensitive and stuff, and Tebow as well, but not Force sensitive enough to, like, I think, actually actively use stuff, but enough for it to affect their ability to do things. But I'm gonna be honest, it was not my cup of tea. This is not a bad show by any stretch of the imagination, and if you are from the 80s and you've seen even one episode, you might get a big nostalgia trip out of it. It's written adequately. Um, I just don't vibe with it. It doesn't connect with me like I think the Droids cartoon did. The Droids cartoon I thought did a lot right. And it was genuinely entertaining despite my age. I did not feel the same about Ewoks. I'll give praise to two episodes. These are both the series finales to both seasons. In the final episode, Kanisha goes and meets, or she tells a story about how when she was young, some monster showed up, and her little sister, all they found left was the tattered remains of her cloak or whatever. And so she thought her sister was dead for all this time. Her mother also died, which I thought was pretty heavy stuff for, a kid show. But they find out that the sister is still alive, and she is living in the wilderness, protecting these animals from the Dulocs. And so they go and help her out, and she comes back to meet her family. And that was a generally really good episode. And then they never used her again in season 2. Or she shows up in the background and does stuff a couple times, but that's about it. Best episode in your hands, and you didn't go further with it. But apparently if they made a season 3, they would have, but too little, too late. And then, of course, the ending to season 2, it actually feels like Star Wars because we have, the Empire show up. We have like this scientist, Imperial dude who wants to get this stone from Endor so he can become all powerful, and he'll give it to the Emperor until he does what all Imperial officers do, which he goes, but if I have this power, then I don't need the Emperor. I can become the Emperor. And so, he gets, all arrogant and stuff. And the Ewoks come on board. They pretend to be droids, which I thought was cute. It's stupid, but it's cute. And it's a kid show, so I don't mind it. And so they stop him, but in the process, he accidentally shoots the Emperor's shuttle because the Emperor was actually coming to get this stone. And so once everything's said and done, the innocent Ewoks are away. The Imperial officers capture him because they think that he did it on purpose. And they say that the Emperor is going to punish you personally. And they just end the show like that. And I love that. I thought that was a lot of fun. But as I said, in between, with the rest of this show, there's a lot of weird fantasy elements. There's talking plants and talking trees and talking mushrooms. There's these weird fairy-looking things and other things. But also, I mean, there's the Joe Bongiorno thing, where he talks about sure, how they're primitive, right? So what they're seeing and what we're seeing in the Ewoks TV show may not be how things actually went down. So that might be a way to cope with the things you see. But like I said, I don't think that Ewoks is a bad cartoon. In fact, it's actually really interesting because Paul Dini wrote a lot of episodes. For those of you who don't know who Paul Dini is, Paul Dini would later be one of the writers for the Batman 90s animated series, which is an absolutely fantastic series. Also, it was at least for one episode, I don't know if there were any others, Michael Reeves, the one who did Coruscant Nights and MedStar and, Darth Maul Shadowhunter. He wrote an episode for Ewoks. Was it like the epitome of greatness? No, but he wrote one. So that's pretty interesting. Like I said, if you really, really love the Ewoks, like if that's one of your favorite parts of Star Wars, you might get a kick out of this show. If you grew up with this show and you haven't watched it in a long time, you'll probably get a kick out of it. If you are, fine with Ewoks, but they're not your favorite thing or whatever, I don't know if this show will change your mind. I don't think it will. I don't know if I can recommend this. I mean, if you're curious about it, then yeah, by all means, check it out. But if it's like something that you really don't care to check out, or if you're like kind of like I just want to see what it was like, then I'd hold off till you've actually like seen more stuff of the EU that interests you, I guess. It's very, very silly. But I do actively recommend Droids because I think that show is actually, it holds up pretty well considering, I think, personally. It also just, has a lot more familiar elements. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. The 80s were a fascinating time. But as you can tell, I don't know if you can tell by the end of season 2 of Ewoks, but most of Ewoks season 2 was a hard watch, I'll say, for me personally. And, I mean, Star Wars was dead. It was dying. That was like the last bastion, was like the cartoons. And then those ended, and then we heard nothing, and people stopped caring about Star Wars until the 90s, when we would return with Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. And it would revitalize Star Wars. You would not have the prequels. You would not have Disney canon with Mandalorian, with Rebels, with Season 7 of the Clone Wars, with Book of Boba Fett, whatever you like. All Rogue One, none of it would exist without the expanded universe keeping this franchise alive for, a decade before we got the prequels, which then revitalized everything again, and then we got more stuff in the expanded universe, which only helped flesh it out more and kept it alive until Disney bought the rights to give us the sequels, which, whether you like them or not, is neither here nor there. Just simply mentioning the fact that you got to remember the time period we're at here with this Ewok TV show. Star Wars was on a decline. People weren't caring anymore. I don't know if you know this, but the early 90s, late 80s, we were getting some bangers in theaters and TV shows. Okay, so people were forgetting Star Wars. And it wasn't until the 90s where it got revitalized again with the Thrawn trilogy. So, that is all. Thank you, the Expanded Universe, for keeping Star Wars alive. And, because of you, we got the prequels and everything else. But that is all with the Ewoks today. Whether you're Logray or Tebow, Wicked, Kanisha, or this other girl, I forget her name. It's a fun time. Sometimes. It's a boring time. Other times, for me. But definitely an interesting part of the expanding universe. If nothing else, I'm glad I watched it just to know what people, like my parents, might have grown up with. It's a different time. And, in a lot of ways, the past was a lot better with certain things. On the other hand, I do think TV shows have gotten a lot better with making things more mature for kids while not, being basically an adult series. Like Gravity Falls, for example. It's something that I think everybody can enjoy. Or Avatar: Last Airbender. Just these shows, Clone Wars, 2008 or 2003. Stuff that both ages can appreciate and enjoy. But yeah, I definitely think animation has improved a ton. But anyway, that's it, guys. Up next, we have a whole bunch of Han Solo stuff. And then, The Force Unleashed. Hope you'll join me. And until then, may the Force be with you.